Contemplating the vastness of the ocean and the sky helped me to readjust my mental framework, to take a step back and look at problems from a different perspective and angle. Because of health issues, for me it is no longer the mountains, but the seaside promenades which, due to their accessibility, have become important places of relaxation and reflection. Keeping seaside locations accessible inevitably results in surfaces. These interventions into nature democratize access and allow me and others to visit the seaside. Marcel Hunziker and his colleagues, who research aspects of the relationship between people and landscapes, point out that humans mustn't just be treated as disturbing natural systems, but also as their legitimate users, and that landscapes should be seen as places with meaning and contributing to societal identity. I am inspired by the writings by and about John Brinkerhoff Jackson, who studied the cultural landscape with the explicit inclusion of the vernacular as part of our everyday surroundings, which are a readout of social life and cultural values. I focus on places in my vicinity for environmental reasons, but also to sustain my practice, as making work where I live allows me to look closer, discover more, and, as Stephen Shore encourages, to communicate experiences of seeing with concentrated attention rather than fleetingly and in passing. The British seaside has mainly been photographed from a documentary and photojournalistic perspective, focusing on the visitors, their habits, and idiosyncrasies. Architecture photography mainly features eye-catching structures like piers, although Simon Roberts highlights their economic and sociocultural importance. Having grown up and lived for many years in a landlocked country, with vacations mostly spent in the Alps, I don't have memories of holidays by the seaside, no personal biographical connection to the coast, and so I visually explore these places in a different, analytical, and maybe even clinical way. In this module, I wanted to drive the work forward in two ways. Firstly, to expand my methods of image making to cyanotypes, to explore other materials than photographic film and paper, and, as the art critic Adrian Stokes suggests, embrace the sometimes unexpected behavior of the medium while trying to impose my ideas onto the materials. As a nod to blueprints as an early reprography technique for technical drawings, cyanotypes allow me to cut across time by combining modern technology for image capture and acetate printing with a historic printing technique. Cyanotype printing has been used by early practitioners like Anne Atkins through to contemporary photographers and artists like Louis Bush or Eric Giamfi. As an alternative photographic technique, cyanotype procedures feature in publications by the Sustainable Darkroom. Secondly, I wanted to turn photographs into objects, neither because I see the medium as an insufficient bridge to other, more compelling forms, as George Baker opined, nor, as Jeffrey Batchen observed, to turn photography into a memory of its own operation as a system of representation, but to keep the spectator engaged, activated, and decentralized through an installation-type display in an art gallery, as exemplified by Alex Marie. This links to the sustainability of the consumption of my work. Deborah Bright and Brian O'Doherty assert that art institutions decontextualize art by bestowing universalized status as art objects onto the artworks. Galleries increasingly address this problem. The Open Eye Gallery in Liverpool, for example, exhibited Craig Eason's photographs combined with words to anchor the work, and through an in-conversation event furthered critical reflection on curatorial aspects of making the work readable and understandable for the audience. Working with local, smaller galleries might be advantageous, as the power structures are less extensive and the curators favour work with a local connection. I envisage a display with photographs to be viewed as backlit objects, akin to viewing construction plans on a lightbox, while others are printed on fabrics suspended from the ceiling. And I consider expanding the project to a collaboration with local artists and public and private bodies to strengthen its regional context and outreach. Back to cyanotypes. Initially, I developed the prints in sunshine. However, in order to increase the reproducibility of the process, thereby saving time and materials, I introduced a technical change. The next step was checking out the suitability and malleability of different materials and to compare the results. An important aspect is to keep good records. Typologies are always on my mind, and I draw inspiration from the work by Bernd and Hilla Becher, whose rigorous approach while de-emphasizing differences of structures in a specific category actually reveals their subtler differences. Also using a less rigid but still to some extent formulaic approach, work by Louis Belt and Ed Ruscha is influential on me. Using details as symbols, as John Tarkovsky postulated, I took close-up shots of surfaces, with the camera pointing vertically down to the ground, from the same distance, using the same lens and aperture. To gain a first impression of what the typology based on cyanotypes could look like, I did a digital simulation. Although attempts at creating real cyanotypes with these close-ups were encouraging, I realized at this point that constructing prototypes for backlit objects and establishing a strategy and process to make large prints on fabrics takes far more time than this module and assignment allowed, and so I decided to pursue this line of work during the final major project. Working with the color images, I settled on an exploration to create an outcome which could stand on its own or be part of an exhibition on related subject matter, a photo book. Considering sustainability, Tamsin Green, the founder of the Sustainable Photo Book Publishing Network, suggested that the first question to ask is, does it really need to be a photo book? For me, photo books are tangible and distributable, they can be taken home, shown around, and provide lasting value. Jörg Holberg's publication Photo Books and Victoria Forrest's guest lectures make it clear that the creation and production of a well-designed photo book is a complex endeavor. Making a book dummy is useful for testing the concept for the photo book, to seek feedback, and might serve as a starting point for a conversation with the producer or designer. While standard books imply to some extent a linear viewing, different ways of printing and binding a book, as demonstrated by Hilda Maassen, allow the viewer, within limits, to rearrange and pair images in different combinations. Analyzing her work with a quickly and cheaply made maquette is very instructive. In an attempt to make the photo book an object, I created an accordion-type book. To disrupt the dryness of the typology, to establish the connection to the personal significance of the places, and to encourage the viewer to reflect on the topic, I interspersed the images with words giving an account of what I associate with being by the seaside. The form of a long accordion book allows the viewer to rearrange and pair images and words in different combinations. In a few locations, I transiently displayed the book dummy in the public space. I would like to conclude with a statement by British photographer John Davies. We are collectively responsible for shaping the landscape we occupy, and in turn, the landscape shapes us, whether we are aware of it or not.